What's your name?
Hasan.
Hasan. Hasan Zishan. Nice to meet you, brother. So I thought at least I'll start off like that. Nice to see you, and I'm glad you've engaged in this conversation.
Yeah, you said you're knowledgeable, so I want to fact check my own logic.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
see
that's
if
good.
There's any flaws? If there is, then I'll come
He's
to
a
you.
good friend as well, mashallah. Yeah, because there's a possibility we could be wrong, misinformed, or maybe biased in our thinking. So it's always
Yes,
good to,
absolutely.
yeah, it's always good to fact check these sorts of things. So
If you're
sorry.
okay with it, then I'd like
Yeah.
this conversation.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. So you were saying you had issues pertaining heaven and hell based upon your observations. Continue.
Yes, because everything does come back in its own form. So every animal that's slaughtered may not be the same soul, but the animal does come back. Same with the trees, same with the earth, the water. It just recycles. So the concept of reincarnation observably made more sense. Obviously, that goes against heaven and hell because obviously the brother there's an afterlife, there's a waiting period. So I didn't believe in that. And then also seeing the concept that your own
What are you
heaven.
now, by the way?
According to my friend, I'm an atheist.
He's here.
According to my friend, I'm an atheist.
Teleport.
Yeah. According to him, I'm an atheist, but I'm not sure. I do believe in the jinns because of my own experience. I do know there's a higher power because if you want to call it Allah, then whatever. But I've also been guided and protected. So those two concepts I do believe in. So I don't believe in the angels. I don't believe in heaven and hell. So I don't know where I'd fall into. I don't know if it's.
So what do you believe? You believe in the jinns?
Yes.
And what else?
I believe that there is a higher power.
A higher power. So let's exhaust that list of what you do believe in then. So jinns, higher power. You said you do or you don't believe in angels?
I don't believe in angels.
Don't.
No.
Okay. And previous books.
They may possibly be correct. I think they have some good messages. That's fine, although they have some good messages.
Okay. Then so you do believe in a higher power, right?
There has to be, yes. Yes.
Very good. What do you believe are the qualities of this higher power? When I say qualities, I mean attributes.
I think he follows certain laws that the higher power can't go out of himself. So karma would be a law. There's no
Let's
there's
go
no
even-
characteristics or attributes.
Let's go even fundamental than that. Do you believe that this entity that created us all, right,
Yes.
is singular or plural?
It has to be plural.
Plural.
Yes.
So there's multiple beings that created everything.
It's a one source, and everything comes from this source. So you and I are part of this
So
source.
singular, right?
I'm not sure because you and I are part of this source, but we're distinct, we're different. However, at the end of time, if there's time, all of it will go back into one source. So right now everything's spread out, the microphone, trees and everything. But
I notice you say source and not sources.
yes,
So you believe in a singular as opposed to a plural in terms of what that thing is,
the
right?
source would be infinite, so it'd be both.
That's fine. It could be
Yeah.
infinite.
Yeah.
We have no issues with that.
Could be both.
But in terms of the thing itself, because if you believe everything came from there,
Yeah.
and you believe it to be an all-powerful thing,
Possibly,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So then you're now saying that two or more entities are simultaneously creating everything, which is incoherent, right?
No, they're not creating everything. Everything comes from this source.
Yeah, so
it's a
everything
part of
either
this source. Yeah.
so everything either comes from one aspect or the other aspect. You can't say it's coming from both, right?
There is no both, no. It has to go back to one thing.
One.
Yeah.
So you believe it to be a singular.
Yes. It has
Okay.
to be one thing, yeah.
One thing, good. Independent,
What do you mean?
like not dependent or reliant on something else outside of its existence.
I'm not sure because its existence is you in your form and me in my form.
But if we've all come from it, that means that its existence, its non-existence is inconceivable, right? Because without it, nothing can exist, right?
I'm not sure. We can only conceive its existence because we are living that source right now. Had you not been alive, you would never know of this source, and the source would never know of you, so it would not have existed.
Yeah. I'm taking us out of the equation and I'm saying this entity, that if you look at its relation with everything else,
Yeah.
and you believe that all of us are dependent upon it and reliant upon it, it's something that has more power than us, right?
No, it's a two-way system.
So you're saying that this is a thing that's more powerful than us, right?
Possibly.
More knowledgeable than us,
Possibly.
and that was the point that I was getting to. And if everything is reliant upon it,
I don't agree with that premise.
You don't agree with that thing?
No.
So you believe that?
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, so then, okay, so I'm trying to put it into the philosophical term of contingent and necessary, right? Are you familiar with those
Yeah,
terms?
It's a necessary being or contingent being, yes.
So you believe that to be a necessary being? Or necessary existence?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so the universe itself and everything inside it, outside it, is it contingent or
What
necessary?
does that mean?
Contingent is something whose non-existence is conceivable. And there's other definitions as well.
So at any point can it not exist?
Yeah, so if it doesn't exist, it's conceivable.
Yeah, at some point this thing can no longer exist.
Yeah, so that's contingent.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
definition.
yes, yes.
Like you, it's conceivable that you won't exist.
Yes.
Yeah? But with regards to a necessary existence, it's inconceivable
No,
that
no.
it can't
I
exist.
don't agree with that premise.
But those are the only two types of existences,
It'd
right?
have to be contingent.
Say that
It'd
again?
have to be contingent.
But then if that's contingent, then you have to believe in an infinite regress of contingent things, right?
Possibly.
But that's incoherent.
If it's contingent, when I no longer exist, this source no longer exists.
Think about it. You're contingent, relying on something else contingent, it going on forever. It's incoherent,
No,
doesn't
it-
make sense.
It ends when you yourself end. When you yourself end, the source ends.
I'm not talking about each individual contingent component. I'm talking about the chain itself, right? So you are relying upon something, that's relying upon something, that's relying upon something. So
No,
that's the
it's
chain.
Not, it's not like, so for me it's not chain like contingent. It's a loop. It's the two-way street.
But
So-
that's incoherent, right?
Why?
That's like a mother giving birth to herself.
Yes, but this being isn't a human with attributes that gives birth. It can only exist because you exist. If you no longer exist,
So in other words, that its existence is contingent upon us, so
We make
therefore
it,
it's
yeah,
contingent.
yes.
So that's why I'm saying it's still in that chain of contingencies.
How?
And you still, because look, let's take it mathematically, right? Mathematically, anything that's contingent, let's put it in a contingent set.
okay,
Everything that's contingent is in this set.
okay.
That set of contingent things, is it contingent on something contingent, or is it contingent on something necessary?
I'm not sure.
What do you think, logically, rationally? Let's
I'm not
go
sure
through
'cause-
both, because there's two options, right? Let's analyze both options. If you think it's contingent on something contingent, then that's in the set. It doesn't solve the answer. So it can't be that, right?
I don't know. I don't know. The example you're giving, I'm not understanding because
Okay, so in maths, you have sets, right? That you put everything within a certain category.
okay, let's
So
use, let's
category
use
of
numbers.
contingent things.
Give me
so-
a set.
Yeah, so the set is a grouping of contingent things. That's put in a set, right?
What would the set be, and what would those things?
The
be?
set is the set of contingent things. That's the title of the set. The set of contingent things.
These contingent things. Can you give me some examples? What
Yeah,
would be-
you, me, universe, they're all contingent.
Okay. And it's in a let's say a bubble.
So you put it into a category, a mathematical category.
Okay.
You know, like you put things under in a box or
Okay.
in a like a column or
A
something.
box works. Let's say we put me and the universe in a box.
Yeah, so all of that is in the box, a
Yeah.
container of contingent things. Everything that's contingent is in that box,
Okay.
yeah? So that box that has all the contingent things, is that contingent or
Yes, that's
necessary?
contingent. That's contingent.
So that thing that is contingent upon is also inside that box then. Because by definition it's contingent.
Because contingent is in that box. It's holding it. Yeah.
Everything
It's
that's
both, yes.
contingent is in that.
It's in two states.
Container.
Yes. It's in two states. Yes.
No, contingent is one state, right? You're either contingent or you're necessary. Those are the only.
It's possible to be both in this instance because this source, let's call it the all, it only exists as long as you are here. The moment you are no longer here, wait.
No,
the
it
moment you are no
doesn't
longer
make
here-
sense though.
Why does it
What
make
you're
sense?
saying is incoherent. It's a contradiction. You're saying something is both contingent and necessary at the same time.
How is that a contradiction?
Because it's a contradiction in terms by definition. One, it's conceivable, its non-existence is conceivable. The other one, its non-existence is non-conceivable.
Yes.
The both are contradictory terms.
Are you saying both statements can't be true at the same time?
Yeah, of course not.
So then if this source that I believe in is all powerful, it will have the right to have both things true at the same time? Do you disagree?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Because it can't be necessary and contingent at the same time, right?
Okay, so if the
This
Lord,
is basic philosophy
the
here.
Lord I believe in can do both things, is this Lord more powerful than your Lord?
No, that's just you just believe in a contradictory idea.
Okay.
You don't believe in contradictions when it comes to anything else, but when it comes to your God, you've attributed this impossible criteria to it.
Okay, I
Do
see.
you see? And that the burden of proof would now be on you to prove this inexplicable being that holds contradictions when nothing else in our conceivable reality can do that,
hasn't
right?
convinced me, so I'm gonna leave the conversation because I do believe that the Lord I believe in can do both. Therefore, it would be more powerful. But I can understand your
Okay,
point.
what's the evidence for this then?
The evidence would be if you are no longer alive, this source, this powerful being would no longer be about.
Which
Obviously, this
concept
can only
of
be
God is
proven.
this?
Well, it can't be proven until you die. But if you were to die, this being would no longer be here. So they're both contingent on each other, you and this being.
Okay,
But this can never be proven because obviously it's after death.
Sorry,
Okay.
which concept of God is that you're talking about?
What do you mean?
The God that you believe in. What God is that?
It's not really a God. It's just a source. The name would be the all. So let's say the concept goes the all. Everything comes from this source. Okay. There's no.
So why are you introducing contradictions in that source? For what reason?
Because he asked me, can it be contingent? So can it exist and not exist at the same time? I said yes.
Why are you introducing contradictions in this source? Because if you have a better concept, which is more coherent, and if you have a concept of God which is incoherent, why are you going to an incoherent concept of God? What is the motivation?
Why is it incoherent?
because of the
Do
contradiction
you
we just
understand the
stated.
difference between coherent and incoherent, first of all?
Give me the example or definition.
So coherent is something that follows the fundamental laws of logic, right? The law of non-contradiction, the law of identity, the law of excluded middle, yeah? So for something to be classed as coherent, it needs to follow the laws of logic. So the brother's saying that if you're introducing something that's incoherent, you're going against the logical, philosophical, scientific consensus, then that requires a greater body of evidence. You can't just state that there is this being, I believe it to be as such, therefore it's true, right? It's not a statement of truth, it's a statement
What's
of
the
feeling, right?
motivation? What's the motivation for choosing incoherent?
Okay, so I have a question then. If there could be a being that could be incoherent and coherent at the same time, would this being be more powerful than a coherent
This
being?
is not the question.
No, it wouldn't be.
Okay,
What
then
we
this
are
is okay,
asking, if I
but
may I just ask the question,
That
why would you choose incoherence over coherent? What's the motivation?
I'm not sure.
I've defined coherent, by the way, yeah?
that-
So, yeah.
I did come to be conceived of.
Can I
to be
give an
convinced
example
for
which
its
is
wrong.
mundane? You go to a restaurant and you order some food. They bring you really food from the dustbin, smelly, disgusting looking, and then nice food that you like. Why would you choose the food from the dustbin, smelly, ugly, over the ones which is very nice, very, fragrance of like you actually like, your stomach is rumbling, I want to taste that. What is the motivation to choose something like this?
unnecessary.
If I'm being honest, I only wanted the conversation with yourself because my friend vouched for you.
You're not being real.
If I do answer your question,
No, you're not being real.
I won't be.
You
interested.
should first ask yourself, why am I not being real? When I have
I
these two
refuse to be
options.
shamed. This isn't true. What you're saying is it's based on assumptions.
If someone chooses these two options, chooses the food which is from the bin, totally disgusting, ugly, smelly, it's going to really give you food poisoning. Why would it motivate you to choose that food when you are hungry and you want some decent food?
You must ask that person who chooses.
No,
that
you,
food.
you.
I have not chosen food from
That's
the bin.
exactly what you're doing.
I have no food here. My
You are
friend,
choosing
you have
incoherence,
created-
incoherent concept over coherent concept.
have given me
Did
an
you not get
example
it?
that doesn't make sense. It's a
When there is a
hypothetical, there
contradiction,
no food
look,
here.
when there is a contradiction in a belief system like yours,
What is the contradiction?
infinite and finite, like you're saying the infinite can become finite and
Yes.
still remain infinite.
No. It can be infinite and it can be finite, and that's final.
Can plus be minus? Can
But that's
plus be
contradiction,
minus?
right?
How would it be?
Because an infinite cannot be finite, otherwise it's not infinite.
By definition, it's not finite.
Do you see?
Mathematically speaking, yes, you're correct. If it's infinite, then it can't go back to its previous. It can't be.
Because
finite,
infinite
yeah?
by definition is boundless,
Yeah,
right?
Logically speaking, it makes sense. If it's infinite, it can't be finite. But if the God I believe in It's more powerful to do both.
But where's that
It's not
coming
more
from?
powerful.
Why,
It's incoherent.
why do you
weakness.
need
It's
to?
weakness. It's
Why do you
weakness.
need to resort to
Shall we
something?
test
that's
it? Shall we test something? Okay,
contradictory?
then I will let
Yeah.
you speak, inshallah. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
Is your God, I'm using your language and terminology, I never used this on ours. Is your God powerful enough to create a stone so heavy that he cannot lift?
Yes. Yes.
Was he powerful enough?
Possibly, yes.
Then why is he not able to lift it then?
Ask him, I don't know.
No. You're saying he's powerful, but you're saying he cannot lift
I'm
it.
saying possibly yes.
No.
You
Tell me,
on the material world.
how is he so powerful and yet he cannot lift?
And if you say God is
Don't know.
material,
Does it make sense?
so that's the association
I don't know.
material and material. We're not-
Look,
If he can do it,
when
then
you are in your universities, at your workplace,
So what something makes
you behave smart.
material into
yes, for the
But
value.
why,
for
when
the
it comes to
value of money.
religion, you leave critical thinking,
non-material, you therefore fall
leave intelligence and intellect?
Because at the workplace, you wouldn't get a paradox.
This is not a paradox.
Yes, it is.
This is not a paradox. It's just
An more
nonsense.
powerful being creating a
It's-
stone you
it's a
can't lift.
rhetor-
That is a paradox.
It's not a paradox.
What is it? Is it
Because this statement has an inherent contradiction. A statement which has an inherent contradiction cannot be classed as a question, because questions must be free from inherent contradictions.
yes, to human logic, but we're talking about all-powerful being.
What logic are you using then? Banana logic? Monkey logic?
This is
I
insulting.
leave it to my
me.
brother.
This has not convinced me about Islam.
It's not about being convinced. You don't want to be convinced. That's the problem.
These are baseless assumptions.
Right. So when you're talking about the two contradictory ideas, where's that? Why is that something that's convinced yourself of? Yeah, that's something that I would accept to be God.
Because if God does have limits, then I don't know. It's not. It doesn't make sense for God to have limits, or
Where would you? What are you using to understand God? Let's stick with the criteria now. Where is the criteria, and how can we get to this criteria of what a God is, that both of us can agree upon?
it's a good question. Firstly, you have to define what is a God to you.
What is it?
What is a God to you? For me, a God is someone that has guided me and protected me. So this has happened so far. Someone that has been fair. These are all observable things. Although I've
Where have you got these criteria from?
been born and raised Muslim.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
believe.
stop.
Okay, so being born and raised as a Muslim, our criteria of God is in Surah Ikhlas, right? Say He is God the One, independent, pre and post eternal, and nothing like it. That's our yardstick of what God is. Nobody can come and tell us, oh, that's God, because we've got a clear definition in very simple language of what God is. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's if you're talking about using the Islamic paradigm, that's the Islamic paradigm. And then there are other things that you mentioned that can be built upon, that can be reasoned with. But these are normally, when I do speak to atheists, they have no issues believing in these criterias. They have issues believing in, say, a man God, or a tree that's God, or maybe, I don't know, an elephant or whatever it is, something that can cease to exist, something that can't help them, something that requires human intervention.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally, an atheist or an agnostic, they're happy with this definition.
Okay.
Now, I grant that that's what they think, but I'm speaking to yourself. So, what do you think about this definition that I've given?
That God is what you described. Sorry,
One.
One. It has to be one. Or it has to be a single source. Can't be multiple. I
Right.
agree with this.
Independent.
I disagree with this.
So, independent meaning not reliant upon other things that are no weaker than it.
Possible.
Impossible.
Possible.
Okay, let's put that on ice for now then, because I think that was the contention before. Pre and post eternal.
So before and after time.
No, pre and post eternal. Like eternal before and then eternal after. Like in both directions.
Eternal for to what?
Eternal in existence. He didn't die and will not die.
I don't know. Possible. I don't know.
So, okay, let's keep that on ice then. And nothing like it.
Nothing like it. Possibly. I don't know about that one either.
Okay, what's the possibly there?
There's nothing like it. There could be a higher, more powerful being.
Right. So you believe all of us, we rely upon something more powerful than us, and then that relies on something more powerful because power obviously gets passed down, right?
No, I believe we rely on something more powerful, and this more powerful being relies on something less powerful.
Okay, then it goes to what the brother was saying, which is, can you have such thing as a married bachelor?
At the same time.
No,
No. Can you have a mother giving birth to herself?
no.
So in other words, the reason why mother giving birth to herself is incoherent is because the mother has become both the cause and effect,
Yes.
right? So like you giving birth to yourself or you being the father of yourself, that's incoherent, right? Doesn't make sense.
The father part, the second part, the first part, no. Me giving birth to myself, like from this source.
I changed that because I know you're a man, isn't
No,
it?
not the gender part.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the
So
esoteric.
you can't be the father of yourself, right?
Yeah, that part is good. But the esoteric part, like from this source, I have come.
Not the esoteric. At the moment, we're talking about the physical, the logical,
Physically, no,
the
I can't
rational.
come from myself.
Yeah. So similarly, when you're saying that everything, so we rely on A, relies on B, relies on C, relies on D, then you're saying D.
No, I don't agree with this premise. There's nothing past B. There's only A and B and A. It's a two-way street.
No, but I haven't, the examples that I've given you.
They haven't satisfied me.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So, okay, let me simplify it. As a human being, we rely on energy, right? Oxygen. That energy and oxygen relies on something else.
Yes.
That relies on something else.
Yes.
That relies on something else. Does it go on for infinity or is there an end to that chain?
There's an end to that chain.
And the end to that chain, is it like the rest of the chain? Or is it different because from it the rest of the chain emanated?
That end of the chain is a component of everything else. Yeah.
Component, define that.
All the little components, oxygen, carbon dioxide.
Rely on that particular thing, right? Have emanated from
This
that.
thing is everything there, just back into your source.
So everything came from that particular thing, right? Was created, emanated, whatnot,
Yeah.
from that particular thing. Now, by inference now, that means that if everything came from that particular thing,
Yeah.
then that thing is different to everything else, right? Because that's the source, everything else is not the source, correct?
Yes, this is like, we don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is, so it's unlike what we know, right?
Yeah.
So that was the fourth criteria I gave you
Yeah, that's
from
satisfied.
chapter 112, that there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And that thing itself, because everything has come from it, and because everything is reliant upon it, correct?
I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's relying upon it, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Because that's what dependent means, right? We're dependent upon oxygen, that's dependent upon forces, that's dependent upon this. So by definition, dependent on what? You're saying that original source. So that original source, unlike everything, not in the category of everything, has to be a singular because you said it's the one singular source, has to be independent because if it relies on everything else, then it's not the start of the chain, it's in the middle of the chain. With me so far?
No.
So if it's in the middle of the chain, then we're not talking about the start of the chain. We're talking about the middle. We already traversed all of that and went to the start of the chain and said from that everything emanates.
Yes.
So that thing from which everything emanates, by definition, is independent because everything else in the chain is dependent. By definition.
Yes. I understand what you're saying.
Perfect. So that now means that the four-pronged criteria. One, you accept it.
Don't agree, but I understand what you're saying.
One second. Number two, independent, that you think is conceivable. I'm not forcing anything upon you. You can change your mind afterwards, no problem. Second thing, independent. You thought, okay, that's conceivable. Pre and post eternal,
Don't know.
that you had an issue with, right? Okay. So now, by definition, if everything is dependent on this independent thing, and this independent thing gets taken out of the equation, will the rest of the dependent things survive or
Yes.
perish?
They'll survive.
They can't, because by definition, they are dependent on the independent.
If I had agreed with that premise, yes, but I don't agree with that premise.
But bear in mind, we're talking about the fundamentals. We're talking about by definition, by what the thing actually is. If you are dependent, by definition, that means you're relying upon something else, right?
I'm dependent on a few things that are physical and real. So
That's what we're talking about.
but-
That's what we're talking
so
about.
Oxygen, food, sleep, whatnot. That's it. But I'm not dependent on this source. If this source were to no longer be, let's say, here for some reason, it would not affect me. because I am part of this source.
So if everything depends upon this source for functioning, because everything by definition is dependent. So if something is dependent, then by definition it means it relies upon something else. Do you not?
No, because
What does dependent mean according to
I
you?
agree, I understand what you're saying. Like grammatically it makes sense, but it's the premise I don't agree with. This person here, he's independent. He's not dependent on anything other than food and water and shelter.
He's
And
dependent on a lot of things, right?
more things than I know, yes, but
Electrons, protons, neutrons,
possibly
electromagnetic force.
I can only say he's dependent on things that are observable. So the electrons, neutrons, protons, yes, they may be proven or whatnot,
Why, you're
but
Christian?
they're not observable. So
Why is that the criteria?
Oh, you're atheist.
you have to know what's true. Well, you have to know what's true through your
No,
own
you said
experience.
observable for you to know something is true. Is that your main criteria?
It has to be. Well, so far this is what I'm going with. I could be willing to change it, but
You already changed that at the beginning. You said you believe in jinns, right?
yes, that was observable though.
You saw a jinn.
Maybe it's an episode of like psychologically, but I'm sure I saw a jinn because
A vision.
I was in Ethikaf, and there's a hadith where if you read sort of jinn 40 times, you can a jinn will appear. So I'm going through it. I'm going to 36, and here this sound of squelching at the udhana. I'm like, okay,
Sound of?
flip flops squelching
Okay.
near the udhana. So I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm still open to it, but I'm like, okay, interesting. My friend said, look, if you don't believe in Islam fully, why don't you just try Surah Jinn? If you don't believe in it, there's no harm. I was like, you know what, you're right. I get to, Parrot 37, I'm reading it now. Everyone's sleeping in Ethikaf, and I'm hearing a knock from the ceiling above, but there's no one awake to verify it, so I'm like, okay, it's possible. And then I get to chapter 38, in the corner of my eye, I see a small black figure run past the corner of my eye. So I was like, okay, this is 3 times now, it's confirmed it. So I closed the book and I said, look, I may not believe in some aspects, but this I do believe in. I read Surah Al-Jinn, I followed the hadith, and something did happen. And I know if I got to sort of, I did the 40th time, a jinn may have appeared and questioned me.
How do you define jinn?
Something that's like not common, not human, like just not common in
This guy is not common.
everyday life. I've seen his skin color before, I've seen his eyes before.
No, but I've never seen this guy.
I've never seen him before.
No one looks like him.
I've never seen him
Very
before.
handsome man, by the way, I must say.
Yes, I've never seen him before, but I've seen his skin color, I've seen his eyes, I've seen he has 2 feet. This is not uncommon.
Have you seen his fingerprint before?
I've never seen his fingerprint before.
That's because it's unique.
Yes.
That's why I said there's no one like
That
him.
wouldn't be a category for being a jinn.
Right, but you said something that is
Like,
Not
out
common.
Of this world, yeah,
that's very vague.
that's very vague.
Out
yes.
of this world is the sun. The sun is out of
But
this
it doesn't
world.
mean literally, and it doesn't mean physically. It means what you would believe to be out of this world.
That's
What I saw-
subjective, right?
It's very subjective.
And jinn is not a subjective thing. It's an objective thing, right?
Possibly, I don't know.
So are you saying jinn could be something that's interpreted differently by different people and means different things to different people, or
I don't know. It could be. The experience of it could be very different to very different
experience?
people. Yeah.
But the entity itself would be the same, right?
I don't know.
So this notion of jinn, your understanding of it, is it from the Quran or from the
Yes.
Bible?
From the Quran.
From the Quran. Why?
This is how I was raised and I grew up with.
Do you
But
believe there's truth in it?
the Quran?
No, proof from the description of the jinn or whatnot that you got from the Quran. Because
I
you
don't
did.
know about the description of the jinn in the Quran. I have heard that there is the existence of jinn in the Quran. That has been proven true to me. So that part of the Quran is true.
But so there was something in the Quran, you wanted to test it out.
Yeah.
So according to the scientific method,
well,
it's correct, right?
According to the hadith method, yeah, it's correct, yeah.
yeah, but hadith method is based on empiricism according to you. I haven't checked the hadith, but in terms of like you say this and then this happens, right?
I did
So-
that and it happened.
Do you see? So according to you, your experiment worked then, correct?
Yeah.
So there's truth in the Quran.
Absolutely. There's some parts of the Quran that are absolutely true, that are undeniable.
This is a metaphysical aspect, right?
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
So coming back to the point, so you do accept things that can't be physically observed because it's coherent to you that you saw something that was metaphysical. So because that was your criteria, the reason why we went to this rabbit hole was because you said, look, I can't observe such thing,
Yes.
said thing, therefore I wouldn't accept it. But I've just shown you that you do accept something that you can't observe, but you still accept it.
The jinn I did observe.
Yeah, but you're saying that it could have been metaphysical, right?
As
So
in,
you-
as in like, not part of this physical world.
Yeah, that's
For
metaphysical.
that slight
right?
moment,
Yeah.
it was part of my physical world.
Your physical world.
Yeah, for that slight moment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no one could verify it. They're all sleeping in his car. But for that slight moment, it was part of my world. So
Did you see a jinn then? So yeah, I mean, if there were two people watching the same thing, then of course
yeah.
there's more credibility to said thing. But you know, there are certain words that have certain definitions. That's how we communicate with each other, right? Certain words have certain qualities. Now, a word will have a dictionary definition, then it will have a philosophical definition. Then it will be used in a logical context. So when I'm talking about dependent and independent, so there's a dictionary concept of that, then there's a philosophical context of that. I've given you both. And you know, when I've given you both and I've told you how something that's dependent by definition and philosophically has to rely by definition, by our understanding of logic and reasoning, has to rely on something which is independent. Otherwise you'll go on forever and it just that becomes incoherent.
I refuse this logic because this all-powerful being can supersede this logic.
Then I don't know what to say to you then if we park definitions to the side, we park philosophy to the side, and the reason that you're saying is,
I mean, there is a question I can ask you that may lead me to the truth, because I can ask you how you did it. How did you come to your conclusion that Islam is correct? If you tell me, then I can try this method, and if it works for me and it worked for you, then I'll be open to doing it.
right. So if you're looking for a practical method is,
It'd be your method, honestly.
yeah, so this is a method that's told to us from hadith, and that's the method that we implement, right? Like, I'm not going to make up a method myself. I could do, nothing wrong with that, but I feel that that has more credibility, right? So you raise your hands and you supplicate and you have your connection with God and you speak to God. God, if you're there, guide me, help me, assist me, I want to see the truth. So that's you and him, and that's it, yeah? Now that's something that you can do in your own time whenever you feel that you're
Do you believe in this method?
you're more sincere. Yeah, of course.
Okay. I can't end the conversation here because I have tried this method and it's led me here. So I do agree with what you said. I did ask Allah for the truth. I bowed down. I stayed in that position for a long time. I said, Allah, guide me.
And now you're here. You're in a conversation in which we're talking about things that are coherent, talking about philosophy, talking about logic. So
Maybe a full circle, but I
So
didn't.
I appreciate you recognizing that point and linking the two together. I'm humbled in fact that you think that that's a result of your prayer. I hope it is.
It has to be.
Yeah. And if you're asking in terms of kind of my reasonings, because for me, yes, I've had personal experiences, but with all due respect, I wouldn't give my personal experiences to people because I don't believe that's a strong argument, because that's subjective and you can't measure my subjective experience. So what I would do is I would give you objective evidences, stuff that you and I would agree upon. For example, we agree upon, logical reasoning, common sense. That's something everybody has. That's something we can all measure, right?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, like for example, if someone comes and they tell you, I'm both this and that. I'm both an elephant and a broomstick. You're gonna think that person's crazy. You're not gonna say, "Oh, you know what?"
I'd be open to inquiry.
You'd be open to inquiry, but in the back of your head,
I would think
You've already made a-
I wouldn't. Be
Do you see?
Yeah. I'd keep my distance.
yeah, you'd keep your distance, especially if you can smell alcohol on that person. But bear in mind, what's the connection? The connection of alcohol on his breath is another inference that you've made. You didn't see the alcohol. You've smelt the alcohol. You now made an inference, which is a logical judgment, which is now informing how you're going to receive that information. So on a daily basis, it might be conceivable according to your worldview that you're crossing the road and a bus crashes into a person and the person gets absorbed into that bus and nothing happens to that person. It's conceivable, right?
Possibly, yes.
But you would not experiment that. Why? Because in terms of your inductive experience, anyone who's ever done that has died a
My
miserable
survival is at
death.
stake.
Sorry?
My survival would be at stake trying that method, yes.
Exactly.
I wouldn't go about
Because
doing
it's risky, right? And you're going to now go for the safest route. Now you're going to the thing that's the most coherent.
Yes.
So now we argue that if you're talking about, this world, yeah, and your minute existence, and thereafter people, majority of the faiths talking about there's going to be a judgment, there's going to be a God, there's going to be hell, there's going to be heaven and that sort of stuff,
Okay.
then surely there should be a similar level of desperation to search for the answer, just like, because you're talking about survival, right? There, because of survival, you're saying, I'm going to take the inference to the best explanation.
Yes.
Similarly, over here, I would argue you should also take the inference to the best explanation because there's more at stake.
No, I refuse. I will not be convinced by the masses to follow a certain sect. Allah talks about it in the Quran. There's a verse where He says, "Don't follow your forefathers" and so forth. There's context behind it.
That's
but,
fine. That's fine.
But
I'm not telling you to do
in this
that.
sense, I don't believe there's anything at risk, because if I had asked Allah, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice everything, including my own religion, to find the truth about God, then I would go down that path instead of going for the safe option, which I could do. I could follow the hadith and follow the madhabs and
What do you
continue-
think's more safe? You dying and it being black, or you dying and having an eternity in the hellfire?
I think me dying and it being black would be safer.
Yeah, so non-existence, that you've just gone into non-existence, you don't exist. Yeah? That, do you prefer that or eternity in hellfire?
I would prefer that.
You prefer the hellfire?
No,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this is, in philosophy, they have a name for it. It doesn't matter what the name is, but this is this is now the odds. Yeah, you're dealing with the odds now. So here, on the one hand, so this clearly has demarcated the risk. Yeah. So you being wrong with the second one has more of a real world consequence, or can have a real world consequence, or have more of a consequence than the former one.
okay.
So therefore, this needs more of your attention, needs more focus, right? Because the consequences are more severe in this one. So you need to completely rule out the fact that there is a hellfire. So if you're going to just go into darkness, then that's fine. That's not going to really bother you.
No.
But there being a hellfire, and the possibility of that existing, you have to completely wipe that out.
Yes,
Because that's a
gone.
risk for you. That's high risk, right?
Zero risk.
No, but that's why I'm saying that
Between these two
possibility.
options, it's a high risk, yeah.
Yeah.
But personally, it's zero risk.
No, can you say 100% hellfire doesn't exist?
No.
You can't, can you? So that risk still exists. That's my point.
This is true. This is true. You can't possibly say it doesn't exist. There's a possibility that it could exist.
That's what I'm saying. You need to now wipe that out for you to then have a
I
balance,
think
right?
there is one way. If I were to die and I was presented in front of Allah and He did question me about what I did, and I would say to Him, look, I did it for the sake of truth. If He didn't agree with it,
That's fine.
then He wouldn't be. Yeah, it wouldn't be the most.
So that
merciful.
is like a hypothetical, yeah? So let's come back to you were asking me, right? Like what are my reasonings? So philosophical, logical, testimonial, and scriptural. So I've looked into it because obviously I come to Speaker's Corner, I debate with people, that bring all sorts of things. For me, in my experience here, I haven't seen any other theology, philosophy come close to Islam. Why? Because even if you take it deductively, yeah, there's deductive arguments. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question then.
Ask.
If the path to heaven, this is illogical Islamically, but if the path to heaven required you to denounce Islam, would you take it?
That's an incoherent
I
statement.
know, but let's play along. Let's play along.
No,
If
but
if the
that's
path,
not a thing, right? So
But-
for us to have a coherent
but
conversation,
the question is direct. If the path to God,
Yeah.
heaven, truth, the ultimate, if it required you to denounce Islam, would you do it?
that would mean Islam, as it's presented, is false, right? Like it's like a.
Let's say hypothetically, just for now,
The truth is the truth. Now here, if Islam, now here's the thing, because I'm going to give you an answer that maybe you're not familiar with. Because here, Islam is, you're saying Islam here, the way it's understood.
just for this question.
Yeah. The way it's understood is not the path to truth.
Yes.
Right. Then for us, we are people that look for the path to truth, whatever it is, and we go with that.
Are you admitting that if the path to truth was outside of Islam, you would take this path?
So there's two things now.
I'm questioning your integrity.
Yeah, so based on this example, the only understanding of Islam here would be a false religion, a false thing that has a false depiction of God, false scripture, etc., etc.
Okay.
So if that was the case, yeah, we don't follow that, of course.
Just you don't follow this because this doesn't exist. However, if I have to question your take, so I need a direct answer.
Do it.
If the path to the truth and to heaven was outside of Islam, and you found this path, would you take this path?
We will take any path that has come to us from God. Islam is a name, it's a thing that's been, there, and there are different kind of perceptions of Islam. Some people think Islam is this or Islam is that. I'm saying that if something, take away the title for now. It could be another title, no problem. Yeah, it could be the Fitrah, it could be Hanif, it could be the Sharia of Moses, it could be the Sharia of Dawood. Whatever it is, if it's coherent, is backed by scripture, there's a prophet, there's evidence inside scripture and outside scripture, we follow that. We don't follow something because it has the title of Islam. But by extension, because Islam comes from scripture, which we can prove, therefore we would say Islam has the answer. Do you see? Do you see the distinction here?
Thank you very much for your time. Our parking is running out. Our parking is running out.
Your parking's running out?
Yeah.
Okay.
The microphone.
Yeah, I'll take that. Walaikum salam. I'll take that. Thank you. Well, nice speaking to you, bro. And if you're around next time, think about what I've said.
So just come here for the day.
Okay. Then you know what? If you get a parking ticket, I'll pay for it then. Serious? The guy is not a Muslim. I'd pay £60 if it means keeping him here and helping him, you know what I mean? It's up to you though. If that was the actual reason, I'll pay.